What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new football news video, and we will talk about Manchester City's potential 2-year ban from the Champions League because the appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS in short, will be held in these next few days, and results will be expected to be announced in July. And some reports are saying that Manchester City have no evidence at all, and if UEFA don't cave in, but I think it's the Court of Arbitration for Sport, they have the matter in hand. But UEFA already had a lot of evidence put forward, and there is a big reason why they banned Manchester City. So we will talk a lot about this case in detail in this video, so make sure to tune in until the end to get all the information that you need, because this would have massive repercussions, not just for Manchester City but for the whole Premier League, especially for my beloved club Liverpool. If you enjoy these videos, please leave a like and subscribe, turn on the bell notifications so you never miss the latest football uploads on my channel. So according to a source with knowledge on the matter, Manchester City have no evidence at all in the case, and Manchester City will be banned for 2 years. That's the prediction that the source is claiming. But I think Man City will hire, or they already hired, the biggest and most expensive lawyers in the world. And so let's take a look at what could happen. The worst case scenario for Manchester City, and this will alter, I think, a massive part of their history going forward, is that if they are found guilty and the verdict will be hopefully completed by July, the results will be in July, because this will affect the whole Premier League. The 5th place team in the Premier League will qualify for the Champions League, even if Manchester City's ban is reduced to just 1 year out of the Champions League. Then the 5th place team gets the Champions League next season. At the moment, that's, I think, Manchester United. And Manchester City risk losing their best players. Kevin De Bruyne categorically said that he will think about his future if the ban is upheld. And if Man City will not be in the Champions League for the next 2 years, not only will they lose as much as £200 million in revenue in sponsorship deals, but they might lose their best players. Kevin De Bruyne is like 27, 28. He's in the prime of his career. He doesn't want to sit around and play just Premier League football for 2 years and not have a chance to win the Champions League. That's his biggest dream. So it will have a massive influence on Kevin De Bruyne's career, and Raheem Sterling and other big players. Bernardo Silva could also leave. Raheem Sterling could also leave. Manchester City's whole squad could fall apart. Aguero is like 31 years old, so they need to sign a replacement probably. And if this hits Manchester City's finances very hard, and they are already hit hard by the pandemic and football suspension, then I can see Manchester City falling down the table and struggling a little bit. Not saying that they will not be in the title race next season, but in 2 or 3 years they could be just a team in and around the top 4, fighting for 3rd, 4th place. And of course that would be great news for Liverpool and for all the other clubs in the Premier League. But of course the Court of Arbitration for Sport could reduce City's ban to 1 year, or they could even reduce it to 0 years and just a big fine, which would be just the worst case scenario in my opinion. Manchester City needs to be banned because what they did is unacceptable for me, and they cooked the books, and there was absolutely incredible refutable evidence leaked by Der Spiegel and also by Football Leaks. Manchester City's emails were leaked, and there was clear evidence that Manchester City were inflating artificially the sponsorship deals, and it was directly funded by their owners from the United Arab Emirates. Manchester City could also appeal the ruling to the Swiss federal courts, but that would be very tricky because it could take years until that is resolved. And also, what happens until then? If Man City would be banned from the Champions League, if that court case takes 1 year or 2 years, Manchester City wouldn't be able to play in the Champions League in that time. I don't see a scenario where UEFA would just suspend the decision. Remember that UEFA's whole reputation and the financial fair play ruling, the whole system of UEFA is at stake here, and I'm sure that UEFA have a very solid case on their hands. Otherwise they wouldn't have banned Manchester City for 2 years if they didn't have big irrefutable evidence on their hands. Because imagine if Man City take UEFA to court and Man City win, then UEFA's whole financial fair play rulings and regulations would just fall apart and collapse, because after that every big club will just spend incredible amounts of money, and then they would take UEFA to court if they got banned from the Champions League and win again. The stakes are high, not just for Manchester City, but for UEFA as well, and for the whole of European football. That's why this case is so fascinating to me. So Man City need to convince 3 judges in the 3-day video conference hearing that they have not broken the UEFA's financial fair play rules. According to Man City and Man City's lawyers, they have evidence that they haven't broken the rules, but the leaked emails say otherwise, and I'm not sure. But the problem with this court case is that it will be behind closed doors. It will not be, there will be no media presence during the court hearing, so we won't be able to know the exact details of this case, which is a shame, because I would have loved to be able to read the reports from the media on what is going on exactly in this court case. So Manchester City, of course, don't want to be transparent once again at all with this court case. So basically the gist of this case is that Manchester City's owners tried to get around financial fair play rules by putting money into the club disguised as sponsorship income. The Man City owners are also the owners of Etihad Airways, and the one document, for example, appeared to show that Etihad Airways was paying only £8 million of a £67 million sponsorship agreement, and the rest came from the Manchester City owners. I mean, how shady is that? And that is one document that was leaked by Football Leaks, and that was published by the Der Spiegel newspaper, and thank goodness for that guy who leaked those documents, because if it wasn't the case, then Manchester City would have gotten away with blatant cheating the system, and that is so unfair on all the other clubs who are following the rules. And you can argue that maybe Paris Saint-Germain did the same, but because PSG have some board members higher up in the UEFA and in FIFA, they weren't punished as harshly as Manchester City. And also Paris Saint-Germain's documents weren't leaked, their emails weren't leaked by Der Spiegel and the Football Leaks, or not as many documents were leaked. And you can call that unfair, but that's just the way life and capitalism is. Not always everything is fair, but at least when a team blatantly cheats the rules, which are followed by everybody else, they need to be punished. That's my opinion. But you can disagree with me, of course, in the comments below. And what is also interesting is that not only will Manchester City get Champions League qualification, or whoever finishes in 5th place at the end of this Premier League season, but also 6th and 7th place will qualify for the Europa League. And at the moment, that is one of those teams are Sheffield United. The other one, I think, is Wolves. And I would love to see Sheffield United in Europe just 1 year after getting promoted from the Championship. What a story that would be. And Sheffield United so far deserve it, because they had an amazing season, and it would be an amazing story as well. Every season that Man City are not in the Champions League, they would lose around £100 million in revenue, in sponsorship deals. And considering that Manchester City have been in the Champions League for 9 seasons in a row, that would be a massive blow to Manchester City and to their hopes of building another great team and challenging for the Premier League title again. And the biggest question, would Guardiola stick around? He previously said that even if Manchester City are banned for 2 years, he will not leave Manchester City. So it would be very difficult and very hypocritical of him to go against his word and to leave Manchester City. And maybe this would be an even bigger challenge for Guardiola, trying to rebuild the club without Champions League football. And I would love to see how Guardiola does, honestly, with a limited transfer budget, because every club that he has been at, he inherited an amazing team, and he also spent incredible amounts of money. So I want Guardiola to struggle financially in terms of the transfer budget. I don't want him to have unlimited transfer budget at almost every club that he is at. I want him to be faced with adversity, with struggles in the transfer market, and building a squad on limited budget, because that's where you would find out how good of a manager Guardiola is, not just tactically but also in terms of team building. It's pretty easy to buy like 50 million players for almost every position and win trophies that way. I want to see Guardiola not being able to buy all the amazing players in the world and still win trophies and titles. That is the biggest challenge for Guardiola, in my opinion. Miguel Delaney, who is a chief football writer at The Independent, said this about the case: "The appeal is absolutely huge and crucial to the medium-term future of Manchester City, given it could dictate whether they are able to play in the Champions League or not. As much as that, it is also about reputation and perception. If the Court of Arbitration for Sport do uphold the verdict and the ban, usually with these cases, UEFA don't tend to use their strongest legal team, and cases are often overturned, as we saw with AC Milan, who were in a relatively similar situation. UEFA are keenly aware of that, keenly aware of what this case represents, the future governance of European football, and I've been told they have put forward their absolute best A+ legal team, and they are quite bullish about it. City have, of course, been just as bullish, and they have a strong legal team themselves as well. They can afford the best lawyers in the world. This could be one of the most significant football fixtures for some time for the future of Manchester City, and maybe for the future of European football. Guardiola said, if they don't sack me, if Man City don't sack me, I want to stay at this club more than ever now than before. First, because I want to stay, not because this is something special. I want to stay longer than the contract that I have. I said before and now, and until the end of my contract, I want to help the club grow and maintain this level for as long as possible. What happened has happened. It is not finished. It's not over. The CEO made a statement. We are going to appeal. I spoke a little bit. I'm confident if we deserve for what we have done on the pitch playing next season in Europe. I'm confident in the club, and I'm pretty sure we are going to defend our position. When someone believes he's right, he's going to fight until the end, and that is what we are going to do. It is an incredible thing to fight for our people who support this club, and we are going to do it as a club, as a team. We are going to do it. So Guardiola has confidence in Manchester City, but I wonder how much he knows about the finances of the club. I don't think he knows a lot, and I don't think he knows all the intricate details about the sponsorship deals. And also Kevin De Bruyne said when the sanctions were announced, the team gave their statements, so I don't know as players what else we can do. We can just play football. The situation will show what it shows. The club is doing its thing, and we all trust in them. I don't know what else we can say. It's a legal action. You guys also know we cannot say anything about this situation. Sterling also said it's something we don't know much about yet, because it's something that has not been confirmed. The club has a long way to go. We just have to wait and see what happens. But I have full confidence in the club. And Laporte said, we are waiting for a final decision. We are going to see what happens next season. Obviously, it would hurt us a lot if we aren't in the Champions League next season. I am very happy here at Man City. I'm enjoying my football. We are doing great things here. In the last 2 years, we have won 8 trophies. And De Bruyne said this: once the statement is made and the appeal is finished, I will review everything. 2 years would be a long time for me. In the case of 1 year, I might see, and that is pretty clear message from De Bruyne, that if the ban is 2 years and it's upheld, he will leave. If it's 1 year, he might stay, he might leave, he still isn't sure. But think about it from a personal point of view. Would a player want to stick around at a club which, confirmed by the Court of Arbitration for Sport, cheated the rules and cooked the books, and that could damage players' reputation. Of course, some players don't care about that, and they only care about their paycheck, and they don't care about their public perception that much. But in the case of Kevin De Bruyne, he seems to me like a guy with integrity, and he seems to me like a guy who would want to leave a club who are confirmed cheaters by the courts. And amazingly, Lionel Messi also commented on this case, saying it is surprising because nobody thought that such a big thing could happen, so powerful. Paris Saint-Germain paid a fine previously for breaching financial fair play rules, or I don't know how it went exactly. If in the end City does not play the Champions League for what it is, with the players, the club and the money they spent, it will be weird, unusual. If Man City do not enter the Champions League, there are many players who may look for an exit or perhaps not. The Champions League is very pretty, but 2 years without playing it can be screwed. I'm not sure if this is the right translation and exactly what Messi said, but I think it's a very interesting argument that according to Messi, many players will leave Manchester City. I hope he's right. That would be just hilarious to see the downfall of Man City. And the journalist on TalkSport said this: if Man City lose their appeal and they are banned for 2 years, they will lose a lot of their star players. The squad they have at the moment, will they lose any players from that? And on top of that, recruitment. I know what players are like when you are trying to bring them into a club. They want to play Champions League football. It is a big thing for any player. To be outside Champions League football and not even be in Europe, it will affect whether they go to Man City or Liverpool or wherever they want to go. I mean, imagine you are a 24, 25-year-old, very talented centre-back, and Man City wants to sign you, but Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool want to sign you as well. And yes, Man City can offer great wages, and they have a good chance of winning the Premier League title next season, but the other clubs will offer you as much wages, maybe even more, plus Champions League football. I think it's a no-brainer if you know that if you go to Man City, there is no Champions League football for 2 seasons, even if you finish in the top 4. That will influence many players' decisions on whether to go to Manchester City or not. And one of the football financial experts said that UEFA needs to demonstrate in the courts that they can effectively sanction one of the biggest European clubs right now, Manchester City, and one of the richest, and that their financial fair play regulations have teeth. Because if UEFA lose this case, that will undermine their reputation, and that could be as big as consequential as the Bosman ruling in 1995, which made it easier for players to move between clubs when their contracts expired, and they could just leave on a free transfer. And the European Court of Justice made that Bosman ruling in 1995, and after that every single transfer like that was referred to as a Bosman transfer. So this is a huge case, and I will keep you updated on how it goes throughout the month of June and July. So stay tuned. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys. Goodbye.